back to the kitchen. Today I want to talk veggies. So there's a couple techniques and tricks that you can do to make preparing vegetables easier. So nobody loves mushy, disgusting, overcooked vegetables. And sometimes the timing of vegetables, getting them done at the same time that the protein's resting or whatever you're making, is difficult. So this first technique is great because you can do it even days in advance, which I love for entertaining. So this is the technique called blanching, which is basically just shocking a veggie in a pot of boiling water, and then I'm going to place it in an ice bath to stop immediately the cooking process. So I like to blanch mostly green things, green beans, broccoli. You can blanch cauliflower, although it's not green, it's white. Snap peas are great to blanch. So I just have some green beans here, and I'm going to put them in a pot. I'm actually going to salt this water with a little bit of kosher salt. And then I'm going to allow the green beans to go in just for about, I don't know, less than a minute or so. So it just depends. If you're doing broccoli, it's in a little thicker, or doing snap peas, which have an outer skin. So we're going to let that just heat up. And so another thing that blanching does, which is great, it's going to remove any kind of microorganisms or dirt on the surface. So even if you wash your vegetables, sometimes there might be any remaining residue. And it's also going to help retain that nice bright green color that we love. All right, so that's probably good. So they're in there for about less than a minute. I'm going to take them out and immediately put them into this ice bath. So if I was at home doing this, not on TV, I would probably strain all the water out and then dump the veggies into the ice bath. Nice. So right now the cooking process has been stopped. I'm going to retain that nice bright green flavor. And then also you want the texture. In Italian it's called al dente, which means to the tooth. So that if you would bite into a vegetable, it still has a little bit of give back. So it's got a little bit of crunch. It's not all the way mushy, but it still retains some of that nice firm texture. All right, so now we're gonna tackle mushrooms. So mushrooms and zucchini kind of fall in this very spongy category. However, mushrooms you never wanna wash. I know it sounds gross, but really if you just take a dry paper towel and you start to brush the exterior of the mushrooms and just brush the dirt off is really about all that you need to do. By rinsing them, you risk, these are little sponges, so they're gonna soak up all of that moisture, which is the last thing you want. Nobody likes soggy mushrooms. So that's how we'll talk about how we're going to saute them. All right, so I have some shiitake mushrooms here that are nice and dry, and I'm just gonna make some nice slices to show you guys how we're gonna saute these little fungi. All right, so I'm gonna put just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in the skillet. Most important with mushrooms, don't season until the end. So salt extracts moisture, which is the last thing we want, is to add any more moisture into these already spongy little mushrooms. All right, second tip is do not crowd the pan. Let the mushrooms have some space. So if you're looking for that nice brown, a little bit of crispiness on the mushrooms, you wanna make sure that they have almost like their individual little playgrounds of mushroom heaven right in the skillet. All right, so I'm just gonna let these continue to saute, not really manipulating them much. Then I'll flip them over, saute them around, and we'll see what we got. All right, so those are looking good. I'm just gonna flip them so that they get browned on both sides. So if you think of mushrooms and zucchini that have that kind of spongy inside, the zucchini has at least an outer layer, which you can rinse and wash, but you're not gonna rinse the inside of the zucchini vegetable. So same thing when you cook zucchini, nice even pieces, make sure you don't crowd in the pan, and season at the end. All right, so those are about done, and now we're gonna add some seasoning. So I just love a little fresh kosher salt. And these are great for on the side of a steak or in stir fries. And now you have a nice, not soggy, crispy mushroom. All right, so now let's tackle roasting vegetables. So I love to roast vegetables. It's an easy technique that you can put in the oven. You can have your stovetop totally free to cook other ingredients or recipes, but there are some tips and tricks. So the first thing is, how you roast the vegetables. So vegetables can be roasted individually. I can do a sheet pan of all broccoli or all butternut squash. I generally tend to roast around 425 degrees for veggies. And the second way is with the buddy system. So you can imagine I've paired up cauliflower and broccoli, so they're both cruciferous vegetables, and they like to be around the same temperature and time. And then over here, I have butternut squash and sweet potatoes, or any potato. So squash and potatoes work really well together. Broccoli and cauliflower work well together. I've done red onions and mushrooms together. They take about the same time. And the third way to roast veggies is in stages. So if I had a blank pan and I wanted to start with what took the longest, I would start probably over here in the squash potato variety. Then I could add a little bit softer veggies. This would include zucchini, and then end maybe with some onions, mushrooms, or cherry tomatoes if I just want to get them blistered. Let's talk oils. So it's important, if I'm roasting at 425 degrees, that I choose an oil that has a smoke point higher than that, because once the oil reaches its smoke point, it means it starts to get carcinogenic, which is cancer causing, which we don't want. So a lot of times you cook with extra virgin olive oil, but the smoke point for olive oil is 410 degrees. So when I roast, I use avocado oil, and it has a smoke point of over 500 degrees, so I know I'm safe. I'm just going to generously spread the oil over. I love just seasoning my vegetables with salt and pepper. And you season pretty generously when you're roasting veggies, because you notice it's not all going to stick to the vegetables. Some's going to get lost in the tray, and then always taste your seasonings at the end. Those are my tips and tricks on all the best ways to roast your veggies.